The other consequence of this is that international shipping will see what's happened and they will react. They will respond. They will put the Red Sea out of play and start to divert international maritime traffic around Africa.
There's a number of really big defence stories around this afternoon. Crews have just extinguished a fire on board the tanker, the Marlin Luanda, after the vessel was struck by a Houthi anti-ship missile in the Gulf of Aden. Now, a statement from the Houthi movement said that they had targeted the tanker in response to British-American aggression against Yemen. Then, hours after the missile strike, the US military said that it had destroyed another Houthi anti-ship missile in the Yemen. There's also another important defence story. The Times today reporting that America is considering keeping nuclear weapons in the UK in Suffolk for the first time in 15 years. Well, we've got an excellent guest for this, Tobias Ellwood, Conservative MP and former chair of the Defence Select Committee. Tobias, thanks very much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Let's start with the oil tanker, which has been attacked by the Houthi rebels. I mean, this could have been a very serious attack, this attack on an oil tanker. Thankfully, it looks like no one has been hurt and they've managed to put the fire out. But what do you make of this kind of retaliation from the Houthis?
Yeah, a couple of responses. Firstly, it shows the threat hasn't disappeared. So the effort to contain that threat, to defeat it, will continue. That's the work of America, Britain, and indeed other allies playing their role. The other consequence of this is that international shipping will see what's happened and they will react. They will respond. They will put the Red Sea out of play and start to divert international maritime traffic around Africa. And that has the direct consequence of impacting on our economy, impacting on inflation, impacting on individuals, because that's where most of our gas comes from. And of course, a lot of our goods come that way as well. So this is why we've stepped forward in the start, but it also shows that this is far from over. And indeed, we need to get into a better understanding, a mindset of just how our world is being exploited by those who mean us harm, to take advantage of these open spaces, if you like, international seas. And there's some big head scratching taking place in the MOD as to how we can do more. Our Navy needs to grow. If we are to protect international shipping in this way, how do we work with our allies to do exactly that? Because we are seeing new alliances forming, taking advantage, perhaps, how risk averse we've become over the last couple of decades. So the Red Sea is a real wake-up call.
And does that mean that you think that continued action and continued strikes by America and Britain are the right thing to do?
Well, the question is if we did nothing. Let's start with that. It's important. This is quite a jump from perhaps what we've done in the past, and therefore it's important that we take the British people, the nation, with us, explaining exactly what the consequences would be if we did nothing. Because what we would see is more overt reaction. We'd see more aggression taking part and starting to own the international shipping in other parts of the Middle East as well, which is already increasingly unstable. So it's important that we do step forward. We have convening power as well, that we make the case with our allies to say we need to protect international waters, and do so conscious that this is part of a wider rise in instability in the Middle East, but nothing to do about taking sides in what's going on in Gaza and Israel, simply about protecting our international rules-based order.
Okay. I just want to get your a quick comment from you, your reaction to these reports that America's gearing up to potentially store nuclear weapons at RAF Lakenheath for the first time in 15 years. What's your reaction to these reports?
Yes, I mean, all these pieces of jigsaw that you're touching on now, but we've been talking about over the last few days and weeks. General Saunders' big speech, the head of the army, saying we need to prepare for gathering storms. It all shows that we've entered a very difficult era of security. And the fact that the Americans, our closest security ally, feel now the need to bring weapons back, these weapons, nuclear weapons, back to our shores. I can't stress just how tricky the world is that we're now entering. There is rising authoritarianism. You know, our adversaries are rearming, and these global institutions, such as the United Nations, are unable to hold errant nations to account. We've done well. Britain's done particularly well in stepping forward. We saw that in Ukraine, but there's a reluctance of the West possibly because of the escalatory ladder, worried that things could ratchet out of control, for us to really step up and look our adversaries in the eye and say enough. And the difference perhaps between now and 1937 is that you've now got non-state actors harnessing new forms of technology, drones, cyber warfare as well. That's just making our world ever more fragmented, ever more contested. We are moving towards a world at war, different to the Second World War, but an awful lot of conflict for the West to really contain and cope with.
Okay, well, look, Tobias, I mean, a sort of sobering note on which to end, but a very important one. Thanks for your time. That's Tobias Ellwood, Conservative MP and former chair of the Defence Select Committee.